Okay, now I'm going to make arroz con pollo. You can see my ingredients. I've kind of laid them all out. So I bought some chicken tenders, and I cubed them up about 1 inch size. You can also buy chicken breast and cut it up, or you can use whatever chicken you want. You can buy drumsticks, you can buy wings or thighs, you can buy them skinless or with the skin. My mom used to make it just regular chicken. She'd cut up a whole chicken and cook it in a big pot. Nowadays, most people like white chicken because it's healthier. So my kids really do prefer the white chicken. A couple of them will eat the drumsticks. I bought the small drumsticks. So there's 12 to a pack. So I'm going to mix both of those. I use long grain white rice. I'm going to use 2 cups of rice, which is going to mean you're going to need 4 cups of water. Remember that you always double the water times the amount of rice that you're going to use. 1 can of tomato sauce, salt, pepper, again, garlic. Almost every Mexican dish comes with garlic, ground comino, and onion powder. And I'm going to top it with some rings of onion at the top. I did spray my pot already with nonstick spray. I have oil. I only keep a small bottle of oil because we really do practice keto most of the time. And then I have a skillet here that I'm going to use to toast my rice before I add it to the chicken. And I've got my oil already pre-measured, about 3 tablespoons. So first I'm going to start with the chicken. I'm going to put it on about medium heat because I want to start to brown my chicken. So I have my drumettes, mini, tiny drumsticks. So, like I said, there's 12 of those. I'll put those in. I'm going to now add the chicken breast pieces. And I'm going to let those brown. I'm going to go ahead and add some spices now. And I'll probably add more later because I just love the way that the rice steams up the spices. So this is ground comino. And I'm going to do a healthy bit of shaking in here. Sometimes it gets clogged at the top. So I would say that I probably put a teaspoon and a half. You can see how it's coated. Pretty good there. I don't know if adding some light here would help, but so we have that and some onion powder. Also a nice, I would say probably a teaspoon of onion powder. And garlic. You can never get enough garlic. I'm gonna say a tablespoon of garlic. Pepper. And salt. I think that rice soaks up salt, so I do put a nice healthy, well, maybe not healthy, but a nice amount of salt in there. So I'm gonna let that start to brown. Stir this up real good so that the spices are all over the meat. So while that browns, I'm going to put the lid on it. And I'm going to move over to the get the rice going. So I'm going to pour my oil in. And I'm going to swirl it a little bit. Be very cautious. You want your rice to toast, so it's almost like frying it up a little bit. Kids, remember that Dad didn't know that you had to toast the rice. He thought if you just added some tomato sauce, it would turn it brown and red. But it's actually the toast that gives it the color. And the rice, or the tomato sauce does help. So I'm going to let this get nice and soaked in the oil. Get it nice and coated. And this you have to watch very closely because it will toast faster than you realize. And fair warning, rice gets everywhere. It sticks to everything. So just give that a couple of minutes. And it will make sure to, I cook it on about, here I'm cooking it on between 4 and 5 because I'm going to keep a really close eye on it while it toasts. This is the same way you would make just Spanish rice, except that I'm going to pour it into the pot with the chicken in it. I try to keep the stove clean, but rice and spices are everywhere. Flame is going. And here the meat. Let's go over and stir that. Rice is very finicky. It's hard to get it right, so you really do try to follow the timing that's on your bag or your box of rice. It will tell you exactly how long that rice needs to cook. This is no different. And I use long grain because it stays a little bit firmer. Not al dente, just firmer. If you use anything other than the long grain, it can get just kind of bready. It's not as savor. It doesn't have a good consistency to it as a long grain does. See how the meat is starting to turn? That's good. This meat doesn't take a long time to cook, so when you put your rice in and add your water and your tomato sauce, it will finish cooking. Remember that these cubes are only about an inch. The drumsticks are not very big. They don't have a ton of meat on them, but they do take a little bit longer to cook. So I try to get this nice and hot and cooking. Meanwhile, I can start to see some of the rice is kind of bubbling up a little bit, so I know it's starting to get really hot. So here in a second I'll start to stir it real good. You have to manage both of them, both burners. I love my rubber mats. I try not to trip on them, but they're so much more comfortable to cook in or on. Okay, so my most of my meat has lost the pink in it on the outside, which is good. And it's not sticking to the pan or the pot. That's good. That's why that spraying it with nonstick oil makes life easier when you go to wash your pots. They're heavy and bulky as it is. So it really does help. I don't see a lot of pepper on here, so I'm going to be a little more generous with the pepper. Okay, rice is starting to get fluffed up because it's starting to toast. Stir it up. I can smell the rice getting toasty. You have to keep moving it around. Not every single grain will brown. You want to get most of it. And you don't want it to turn black because, yeah, that's just not good. Starting to lose its white. It's more of a cream color now. Using both hands when you pour the rice will be kind of important, so we'll see how I do. Continuing to stir my chicken. Sorry, I moved my camera. Okay, rice needs some attention. Oops. So if I was making just plain rice, what I would do is right after I would have some diced up onion and maybe some green peppers. My mom used green peppers. I would have it ready to pour in here, pour all the spices and my tomato sauce like one after the other. It's like a race. And then pour the water in it and cover it and cook it for the time that it tells you to on the box. And don't raise the lid, whatever you do. Don't raise the lid, as tempting as it is. You would, once you get it to a boil, when that water starts to boil, cover it, turn it down a little bit, and let it simmer. We're almost there with the rice, almost there. Keep spreading it in the pan. Back to the chicken. Spices smell really good. The great thing is these pots are pots that my mom and dad bought probably 30 years ago, maybe longer. They're amazing. The greatest thing is that the lid has a, you can twist the knob on it and it'll go to the handle and it'll seal the pressure in there. And okay, so my rice is starting to get really toasty. You can see it's browning. See that? I think it's almost time for me to pour it in. So I'm going to try to do this. I'm going to try to get it all to one side of the pan because I'm going to try to single-handedly do this. I think I might start to just scoop it in there. Usually when I have 2 hands available, I pour it in there, but it can get messy. So I'm going to do what I can here, and then I'll lift up this. Rice is never fun. It's kind of finicky. I'm going to turn this off before it toasts too much. Getting most of it in there. I'm going to spread it out because when I cook it, I want it to cook evenly. Okay, let me see what I can do about lifting this handle. That's good. Get rice everywhere. If I can't get it all in there, that's okay. That's not gonna hurt. Sorry. Okay, now I'm gonna pour my rice, or my tomato sauce. Whole can. I'm gonna, it's empty. I usually pour some of the water in here to just get all the tomato sauce out, but I think that works just fine. I'm going to pour the 4 cups of water because I used 2 cups of rice. Now I'm going to stir this. I'm sorry, I keep moving the camera in the wrong direction. Okay, so everything is covered now. I kind of made sure that I got all the rice off the sides. I'm going to put my onions, just lay them on top. You can add as much onion as you want. You can even add tomatoes if you like tomatoes. It just tastes good. I am going to give it another dash of salt. I am my mother's daughter. There we go. And another dash of pepper. And some good old garlic for fun. All right, so now I want it to boil. So I've cranked up the heat and I'm going to put the lid on it. And I sealed it. I was messing with flour earlier, so my lid is kind of dusty. Once I hear it boiling, I'm going to turn it back down. But the box of rice says that you cook it for 15 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cook it for about 28 minutes. And let's see what it looks like when it's done.